So I just finished reading the entire Demon Slayer manga, so that means there's going to be major spoilers in this video if you've only watched the anime. So in short, I enjoyed this manga. I thought it was pretty good. It's not like the best as the numbers would indicate it is, at least in Japan, but it's pretty solid. Like I talked about in my review for the first season of the anime, it's pretty derivative. It's not reinventing the wheel by any means. It's not even really like doing anything new. It's standard battle manga shonen, through and through. It's like very traditional and follows all of the same tropes and everything, but it just does them all very, very well. And I think that's why it's such a well-received series. And it's like a crazy phenomenon in Japan right now. And it makes sense to me because usually in like art and media and pop culture and stuff like that, those are usually the things that, rise to the top. But I really think the driving force behind this series' popularity is definitely the first season of the anime, because it's very well animated, storyboarded, and everything like that. But the manga, on the other hand, is kind of rough at points. The art is great, don't get me wrong, and some of the panels are amazing, but a lot of it is kind of sloppily made, in my opinion. And that's not an insult, it's just kind of a critique. Like comparing it to the other mainstream series, some of the panels look kind of lazily drawn at points, and maybe that's the intention of Kyoharu here. But at points, I guess it was a little off-putting, but it's not really like that big of a deal. I mean, it's not like a series needs incredible art for it to be good, because it's definitely not the case. But like I said, just a little sloppy at times. But aside from the art, like the paneling and the choreography, that's pretty good. Sometimes it's a little messy, but not all series are perfect with that anyway. But I think this series does a pretty good job of getting the fights across. And speaking of the fights, they're pretty long. Like, one of the cool aspects of this series is that like when a fight happens, you're pretty much seeing the fight from start to finish. There's like not a lot of cutaways once a fight actually begins. Like in a lot of other series, like a big fight will happen or something, and then we're just watching it in pieces. Like a big moment will happen, then they'll cut away, and then we'll have a clash, and then they'll cut away to other stuff. A lot of the times in this series, you're just seeing the whole entire fight, and it'll take like 3 or 4 chapters or even longer than that of just a continuous fight that you're watching. And I noticed this like in the anime itself, like there's multiple episodes where you're just watching a full-blown fight, and there's no cutaways to like ancillary characters or storylines. And I like that. I think that's pretty cool. Now, another thing that we need to talk about is the crazy amounts of death in this series. It's unlike a lot of the other series that I follow or have followed before. It's unusual for this many characters to die in like a battle manga, especially like in the shonen demographic, at least in my opinion. So those of you who are always like, man, I wish the stakes were higher in these series and characters actually died, well, this is the series for you, because characters die a lot. And if they don't die, they are seriously maimed or injured. Like by the final chapter, I think only 3 of the original Hashira that we meet are alive. And it's bittersweet because the Hashira are obviously some of the coolest characters in this series, and they're kind of built up to be that way. Now, does the deaths take away from this series? I don't think so, but I also wouldn't necessarily say that it like strengthens it. I think it kind of rides like this ambivalent line, in my opinion. It's like, it's fine that it does this, and I think it's definitely unique in its way that no characters are safe pretty much, kind of like how Game of Thrones was. But after like the 3rd or 4th death, you're kind of like, ah man, I wish some of these characters maybe would have survived or something. And yes, it is comforting and whatnot, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessary that all of these characters needed to die, but I also don't think like they needed to live either. Like I said, it kind of strikes this weird ambivalent opinion in me. So as for the story and everything, it's very compact and it follows a straight line and does not fray away from it at all. Like other battle mangas and shonens and stuff like that, they'll have like a big overarching story the way that Demon Slayer does, but they'll take kind of a while to get to their end goal. As we're with Demon Slayer, there is none of that. It's just pretty much one full saga the whole entire time. And it's just basically Tanjiro trying to eventually defeat Muzan. That's it. That's like the whole story here. And like while this is 205 chapters long, it feels kind of short and almost kind of rushed in a way. But not like egregiously or anything. I mean, it's like almost feels rushed. It just makes me wish there was more to this story, because not everyone is fleshed out and not everything is fully explained. Like some of these arcs, I guess, are dragged on a little longer than what you would think they would be, and other characters suffer because they're not a part of those arcs. like Nezuko, Zenitsu, Inosuke. While these characters are built up in the beginning of the anime, and then a little bit after that, there's like a whole portion in like the 3/5 of this series where they're just gone and we get no real development on them or anything like that. And then they're kind of just thrown in towards the end of this series, and then they're just given all of this rush development and motivations and things like that. Like Inosuke and Zenitsu, they're kind of just pushed up the power scale along with Tanjiro. Like, we see Tanjiro training and whatnot, but it's just like, hey, they were training too, and they're close to Tanjiro in power now, so that's fine. We don't really need to go into that. And then during their like last major significant fights that they have, their whole character arcs and story arcs and everything are kind of just crammed together and thrown out there, and it's like there wasn't really much build up to them. For Zenitsu, there was some breadcrumbs there and whatnot, but for Inosuke, it's kind of just an afterthought, and I feel like Kyohara almost was like forgot that Inosuke needed to have a major character arc and everything, so she kind of just shoehorned it in there at the end. And then for Nezuko, it's kind of like what I was talking about in my anime review. When she's not needed in the story, she just falls asleep. And in the very last arc of this, which is like, I don't know, over 60 chapters or something like this, she's gone until the very end because she's just not needed. But before the final arc even happens, the story kind of gets repetitive. Like after the Infinity Train arc, it's kind of like a rinse and repeat of Tanjiro recovering, training, becoming stronger, and then fighting one of the upper 12 Kizuki while teaming up with one of the Hashira. This happens quite a bit up until the final arc of the series. When we do get to the final arc, which happens like around, I don't know, 138 or something, like when Muzan encounters Ubuyashiki, the series is just at a full-blown 10 from that point on. Like, it was awesome reading the last stretch of chapters in this series because this final arc is very cathartic. I mean, everything was leading to this. That's why I said it's a very compact and straightforward story. Like, okay, we've set up, you know, the final 12 Kizuki, we set up the final Hashira, and we set up, you know, Muzan. So now they're all gonna come together, fight, and then we're gonna have the final battle with Muzan. And when we do get to the final battle with Muzan, I thought it delivered. I thought it was well done. I like how everybody worked together to ultimately take him down. It's not just Tanjiro with the power of friendship beating him in the end via Deus Ex or whatever. I think it's a well done battle. Everything made sense for the most part, aside from like the off-panel developments from Tamayo, who just had all of the answers to everything, which is understandable because, you know, Tanjiro did send her samples and stuff throughout the series with her ghost cat, so it's fine. But I really did like the long, drawn-out final battle with Muzan. I mean, everything in the series was headed towards that, so it's nice that it delivered. Then I even liked the weird little twist at the end where Tanjiro temporarily becomes the Demon King. That's very interesting, and that typically doesn't happen in series, especially at the very end. But like I said, yeah, great series, very compact. I wish it was a little longer. I wish more characters were expanded upon, and I wish Kyohara explained exactly what the Blue Spider Lily was, but maybe the sequel they will. But overall, I'm feeling like an 8 on this series. Definitely worth checking out, especially considering the anime has like 3 more seasons that are going to air, and they're all going to be awesome. So yeah, let me know what you think about the entire Demon Slayer series in the comments. If you like the review, guys, please give it a like. Also have a Patreon and a Twitch. Please check those out. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.